Hello and welcome to episode 4 of The Impactful Leader. And in this episode, we are covering confidence versus ego because quite often they are so confused or just put into pretty much the same basket. Now, it's really important to gain a bit more of a view from a different perspective around this because you need confidence when you're in any kind of position of leadership. Because without that, if you have insecurity, if you have low self-worth, that will impact everything you do. It will impact how you perceive things. It'll impact how you treat your team or your community or those around you. And it will mean that you'll approach things from possibly a form of defense or self-preservation, because when you do not have confidence in yourself, everything is colored by doubt. And then it depends on how that plays out in how you speak, how you approach tasks, challenges. It really does impact everything. So here's my perception, and I do communicate with you around my views and opinions because this is my podcast. But I do welcome different views, and I love to hear from you if you have a different perspective on this. Now, for me, confidence means that quiet inner confidence, the comfort in your own skin, the acceptance of who you are as a person, the conviction for your beliefs and what you stand for. Those are things to me that do really ring true for being confident. It's being able to very much open up and admit when you've made a mistake and not to feel that there's any threat or weakness in that. It means you can be vulnerable with strength. There's a very big difference between that and ego. Now, quite often when people are talking about confidence, that is confused with ego and arrogance. And I can understand why, very much so. But from my perspective, ego and arrogance, that does come from almost a place of needing things to be about yourself, needing the significance to be around you over and above anyone else, to be able to get your views heard first, that you view yourself as more important than others. Now, there is multiple views of the ego, and you know what? It's not always a bad thing or arrogance. Ego can be very much that self-preservation. It can be when you're feeling insecure, and this is why I say the inner strength is so important to then be able to see things at a stronger view. Now, when you're considering anything like ego, identity, confidence, all these wrapped up, have a think about where you stand, what you're working towards. Are there particular things that irritate you or come up? Or when you're asked a question, do you see it as criticism, or do you take it on board as in, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let me just pause and think about that. Now, confidence, it also comes through in how you carry yourself physically. Because if you don't have it within you, not only will you undermine yourself, but you may find yourself doing things like over-explaining, apologizing for speaking up for yourself. It may come about in even how you stand or sit with your shoulders perhaps a little bit slumped in, almost trying to make yourself smaller. It plays out in so many different ways. It will also mean that you are almost needing to receive that significance first, which that in turn means you can't truly be there for the people that you are there to serve as a leader. Now, when you do have that inner strength within you, you can give recognition and reward freely because you don't need to receive it yourself. And you know what, ironically, when you do lift people up from such a pure place, that's when you receive the trust, the rapport, but also the recognition. That's when it really comes from a very true and genuine place, because you're not trying to gain it. And this is why when I introduced the first episode and when I said that this podcast, if you're looking for something that is about raising your profile and your presence, this is not it. Because this is about gaining comfort within yourself so you can operate from your highest performing self that is more sustainable, that is more freeing, and that whole acceptance. It also means you can be genuinely you and you won't second guess everything. Now, I paused there because literally I just had this thought. It's like, well, second guess, pausing for thought and analyzing risk is one thing. Second guessing is quite another. And they do come from a very different place. When you can openly admit that if you've made a mistake or you've been wrong, That is powerful. I want you to think about this. Have you in your career had any leaders in the past or anyone in a position of authority? And I say very specifically position, because just because someone has a title, it doesn't automatically mean that you feel respect for them as a leader. Now, how does it feel to you when you have seen someone in a position of leadership and it's been very obvious that there's been a mistake? And you know what? Mistakes are okay. Failure is okay. This is one of the biggest ways that we learn and identify gaps. But there's been a mistake. But instead of openly saying, you know what, hands up, that's on me. I can see where I went wrong here and I own it. And this is how I'm going to work forward to build from that. If instead you've seen an approach of, that wasn't me, it was this member of the team, or blaming anything else, but taking on the own accountability or self-ownership, how did that leave you feeling? Did it build trust in you, or did it destroy the trust in you for them? I would say quite likely the latter. For me, I respect people so much that have that level of integrity where they are confident within themselves. They go in with full heart. They are driven. They have the strong vision. They know what they stand for. They operate with conviction. They pause for thought. They have the ability to listen, but also to own up to when things haven't gone to plan. Ego is not an excessive confidence. Just going back to the ego conversation. It can come from the fear of not being enough. So this is why this episode follows the imposter syndrome, because do you see all of this is so connected, and it comes back to insecurity. Now, someone who tries to dominate every conversation or has to try and answer everything, that is not confidence. That is someone that needs to be seen as the one with all the answers. And some of the best leaders don't have all the answers. They're the ones that create the space for others to fulfill what they aspire to. They ask the questions and they get comfortable in silence for others to come to the party, others to collaborate. Someone that needs to be the smartest person in the room, it's not always a good thing. And if anything, one saying that with this I do like is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're someone that does like to be the smartest person in the room, I encourage you to think about why. What does that give you within yourself? Is it a form of recognition or significance? And why do you need that for yourself from that way on validation? Now, ego can also show up as that need to be right, or to take credit, or to give blame, or if there's been an idea that's really worked well, they'll take some form of ownership, going back to that taking credit side of things. Insecurity, that plays out as the over-explaining, procrastination, perfectionism, constantly seeking validation. So do you see all of these? They don't ring true for being able to portray and show up as someone that others can buy into and feel secure with. Now, there's a way of how this might land within your team of the confidence versus ego, insecurity. And I've covered a few, but consider this. If you are someone who's constantly trying to gain significance, or if you've seen this kind of behavior in the past, what you will notice is that others in the team will then stop bringing their ideas. They'll stop trying to contribute. They won't feel like they can come to you with problems, because they would have seen a side which is deflective, which won't recognize other ideas, or some that will try and take credit for their work. Confidence and being able to step back and listen and support, observe, encourage, that creates psychological safety, where people can feel safe to fail, where people can know they can draw boundaries, they can learn, they can grow, they can contribute. And that's when you get a team that will really thrive. It's when you create that open culture of feedback, of growth, of support. It's everything's connected. So to do this, first of all, it means taking a look at yourself. Do you feel like you are sitting in a place of comfort within yourself? Do you work towards gaining recognition? And what does that mean to you? Do you feel like you need validation from external sources, and why? And what would it mean to you to be able to feel comfortable, content, and accepting of who you are as an individual and as a leader? What would that mean to you? What does that look like, and what does it feel like? Sit with that as a question, because then that gives you that visualization of what to work towards, And you can start to identify even one small thing that you can do to shift that. Who are you when you're at your best? Who are you at your most confident? What happens when your ego comes into play or your insecurity? How does that impact yourself, your relationships, your team, and the culture? Review that. If you want to reach out to me and share it with me, I'd love to hear from you. But also what your thoughts are on this, if there's any other different perspectives that you have to share. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.